Hello, my children, and before I tell you what I have to say today, I want to ask you this question. How much have you invested so far? What have you done for retirement so far? Please share your answers in the comments after watching the video. Today I need to tell you about Mikel, a 42-year-old man earning $90,000 a year, with a 401k account, doing everything the advisors told him. One day he's sitting at his desk at work, doing calculations about the future, and he sees that at the current pace, he can retire not at 65, but at 71, because he didn't take inflation into account when making his investments and had kept his contributions fixed for 10 years. He turned to me and said, "I'm buying my life back at twice the price." That's when I understood that most people can't properly calculate their retirement. The reason for this isn't that they're incompetent with money. The reason is that nobody told them the real game. What I'm going to tell you now is this: the path to stopping work in a decade without needing to time the market, pick stocks, or gamble on crypto. The psychological traps that keep people from moving forward, the three-layer wealth structure that actually works, and why the 25 times rule is not a magic formula, but simple math that nobody bothers to explain properly. If most retirement advice sounds like a motivational poster, it's because the people giving that advice have never actually done what they're advising. I've been running my own business for years. I'm surrounded by accountants and tax attorneys, and they taught me how money really moves. I have very large amounts of investments, and I started building these investments not with a theory, but from the moment I framed wealth after reading boring documents and figuring out what really matters, as buying back your own time in pieces. Every month you work, you're selling approximately 160 hours of your life to an employer. Your mission is to reverse this balance, to build such a large pile of assets that that pile buys those hours back for you forever. That's it. That's the whole game. But here's what nobody tells you while saying this game. Your life isn't bought back in one big piece at the end of your life. You buy it back piece by piece in 1% increments. I learned this from a business partner who retired at 48. He had missed his daughter's soccer games for years. He had to work every Saturday. Then one year, his investment started generating enough cash to cover Saturdays as holidays. He didn't quit his job. He just bought back his Saturdays. This was 6,240 hours he reclaimed in his life before fully retiring. And that small slice of freedom changed the way he saw everything. He was collecting back the pieces of his life one by one. This is the framework that makes early retirement possible. You measure progress not by account balance, but by freedom units. If your lifestyle costs $5,000 a month and your portfolio generates $500 a month in passive income, you're 10% free. That's half a workday you've permanently bought back every week. Once you see it through this lens, the math gets incredibly interesting, incredibly fast. Now, for building this in a decade, the real answer has 3 parts. And if you miss one, the timeline doubles. The first part is the income side. You cannot budget your way to wealth. I'll repeat this. You cannot cut your budget enough to retire early. If you're earning $50,000 a year and saving 20%, that's $10,000 a year, and the road to retirement is respectable, disciplined, slow, takes decades. But if you earn $150,000 a year and save the same 20%, you're putting in $30,000 a year. Same discipline, 3 times the speed. The difference isn't in your character, it's in your earning power. Let me tell you a story that explains this better than any spreadsheet. 2 friends named Josh and Ryan, the same age, started investing in 2008. Josh is a teacher, earning around $65,000, saving 15% without fail every month. Ryan is in software sales. He started at $70,000, but pushed himself to learn valuable skills. He developed himself in areas like sales psychology and negotiation, and by 2015, his earnings were around $120,000. By 2020, $180,000. Notice this: Ryan's lifestyle increased very little. He got a better car, moved to a better apartment, but he didn't allow lifestyle creep to swallow all his raises. He continued saving the same 15 to 20%. Today, Josh has saved approximately $230,000, demonstrating a strong and impressive example of discipline. Ryan's savings are over $700,000. Same time frame, same core habits. The difference is just income velocity. And here some of you are getting angry at me because I'm supposed to tell you all you need is discipline and patience. But that's a lie sold by those who want to keep you poor and make you feel good about yourself. Discipline matters, but income is the multiplier. The second part is structure. You need 3 layers in your wealth stack. I call this the house model because every solid house has a foundation, walls, and a roof. The foundation is growth assets, index funds, stocks, boring things that compound at an average of 7 to 10%. Without this engine, your money gets eaten up by inflation. The walls are income producers, dividends, real estate, anything that puts money in your pocket without selling shares. This gives you flexibility. In a downturn, at the exact moment people are panicking and ruining their plans, you can cover your expenses without liquidating your growth assets. The roof is stability, bonds, cash reserves, maybe a little gold as central banks keep printing money. To show why this structure works, let's go back to 2009. The market has crashed, your portfolio is down 40%. If everything you have is in stocks, you're in psychological hell, watching your account bleed out, and your instinct is screaming at you every day to sell your shares. But if you have that second layer, those income producers, cash flow is covering your expenses. You don't have to sell anything. You can sit there cool as ice while everyone sells in panic at the bottom. That's the whole game, staying inside without panicking while everyone else runs. I saw this firsthand in 2008 in someone who had rental properties. Their stock portfolio was decimated, but their tenants kept paying rent. They didn't sell a single share, and by 2012, their net worth had fully recovered while most of their friends were still trying to get back to zero. And the lesson isn't buy rental properties, it's build a structure that keeps you psychologically stable during chaos, because in this game, your brain is your biggest enemy. The third part is the feedback loop. Every year you absolutely need to increase your contributions, not by much. Increasing by 3 to 5% will be enough. The reason for this situation I can explain as follows. If you invest $1,000 a month this year and keep it that way forever, inflation eats your gains. But if you go up to $1,030 next year, then $1,061 the year after, you're quietly passing through inflation without feeling it. Over 20 years, this small increase takes $760,000 above $1 million. Same portfolio, same returns, just a 3% annual increase in contributions. Here's the truth I'm telling you now. The financial industry doesn't want you to know this, because if you did, you'd understand you don't need high-fee, actively managed funds. You'd see the whole game is just basic math and behavioral psychology. You'd realize you can do this yourself, and then they'd lose their 2% annual fees on your $1 million portfolio. That's $20,000 a year, forever. This is why they make retirement look complicated. Complexity is the product, confusion is the business model. To make it feel concrete, let me give an example with real numbers. You're 35, currently earning $80,000, saving 20%, meaning $16,000 a year going to investments. With a simple index fund at a conservative 8% average annual return based on historical data. At this pace, in 10 years, you'll have approximately $245,000. Not bad, but nowhere near retirement. Now let's add the income multiplier. Let's say you spend the next 3 years building a high-value skill. It could be sales, coding, consulting, copywriting, content creation, doesn't matter. What matters is that by age 38, you raise your income from $80,000 to $130,000. You're keeping your lifestyle largely fixed, maybe spending $10,000 more a year, that's fine. Now instead of $16,000 a year, you're saving $30,000. Here's the real big surprise. By age 45, you'll have approximately $720,000. You didn't change your investment strategy, you didn't time the market, you didn't buy a meme coin, you just increased your earning power and stayed consistent. But wait, because here's where the 25 times rule kicks in and turns everything upside down. If your lifestyle costs $60,000 a year, your retirement number is $1.5 million. Why? Because at a 4% withdrawal rate, $1.5 million generates $60,000 a year forever. That's the math. It's not complicated. Nobody just explains it to you without wrapping it in jargon and without selling you a course. You're sitting at 45 with $720,000. It's not done, but you're halfway there. And here's the psychological transformation that changes everything. You're now measuring your progress, not by account balance, but by freedom units. $60,000 annual expenses, that's $5,000 a month. If your portfolio is generating $2,400 a month, you're 48% free. You've bought back almost half your life. You can leave work and go part-time. You can take a leave, or you can negotiate a 4-day work week because you don't need money as much as your boss thinks you do. Financial independence looks exactly like this before you reach the finish line. Leverage, options, being able to say no to things you hate because you've built a cushion that lets you breathe. And that feeling, that shift in how you move through the world, is more valuable than any account balance. Now I'm getting to the part where I'm going to lose some of you, but I'll say it anyway because it's the right thing to do. The biggest obstacle to early retirement isn't market returns. It's not inflation. It's not taxes. It's your own psychology. Specifically, the inability to delay gratification and the addiction to looking rich instead of being free. There's a concept I learned from a tax attorney I worked with, and he calls it the performance tax. When you buy something to signal status, a nice car, a fancy watch, a house bigger than you need, you're paying the performance tax. You're trading future freedom for momentary perception. And the math is ruthless. If you spend $40,000 on a car you don't really need, this isn't just $40,000. It's $40,000 that could have compounded at 8% over 20 years. That's $186,000 of freedom you traded for a depreciating asset worth $12,000 in 5 years. I'm not saying live like a monk. I'm saying every dollar is a worker. Either you send it to work, building your freedom, or to the mall for a temporary dopamine hit. One side of the road looks rich today, the other makes you free tomorrow. And most people see the difference too late. There's a man named Derek I met at a conference, 53 years old, earning $250,000 a year, living in a $4 million house, driving a $110,000 car, sending his kids to private school, and he told me with complete seriousness that he felt stuck. Because his monthly expenses are $18,000, he can't retire until at least age 65. He built a life that looks successful from the outside but forces him to work into his 70s. That's not wealth, that's a prison with a nice view. I compared this to someone else I know named Alan. Alan earns $140,000, lives in a $600,000 house, drives a modest Honda. His monthly expenses are around $5,000. At age 50, he had $1.8 million saved. He could have retired at that moment. Instead, he continued working part-time as a consultant because he loved his work, not because he needed the money. That's exactly what freedom is. That's what we're really trying to build. And the reversal that nobody talks about is this. You think the problem is that you're not earning enough, but for most people, the real problem is having built a life that costs too much. The psychological trap is this. Every time your income increases, your lifestyle expands to match it. This is called the hedonic treadmill. You earn more, you spend more, you feel the same, and you never make progress. The only way to break this cycle is to consciously decouple your income from your expenses. Grow one, keep the other stable. Wealth lives in exactly that gap. Now let's talk about the 25 times rule in detail, because everything comes together here. If you want to retire, you need to know your retirement number, and your number is simply 25 times your annual expenses. If you spend $40,000 a year, your number is $1 million. If you spend $60,000, it's $1.5 million. If you spend $100,000, it's $2.5 million. The reason this works is the 4% rule. It's based on historical market returns and withdrawal rates studied over decades. Not perfect, but the best framework we have. On the tactical side, if you're targeting early retirement, you might want to be more conservative. Use 3.5 or 3%. This raises your 25 times number to approximately 28 or 33 times. So if you spend $60,000 a year and want extra security, your number approaches $2 million instead of $1.5 million. Harder? Yes. Safer? Yes. You're buying insurance against the scenario where the market crashes the moment you retire and blows up your entire plan. This is called sequence of returns risk. But the thing most people miss is this. You don't have to save this entire number out of your own pocket. Compound growth does the heavy lifting for you. Let's say your target is $1.5 million. You have $50,000 saved now, and you're investing $2,000 a month at 8% returns. You'll reach $1.5 million in approximately 23 years. But if you increase your contributions by just 5% each year, you'll get there in 18 years. If you can raise your monthly contribution from $2,000 to $3,000 by increasing your income, you'll get there in 14 years. Same market returns, completely different time frame. This is exactly what we call the income multiplier. Now let's look at it from another angle. You're 40 right now, you want to retire at 50. You have $100,000 saved, you're investing $3,000 a month. At 8% over 10 years, you'll have approximately $670,000. If your number is $1.5 million, it's not enough. But if you increase your contributions by 7% a year and can contribute $4,000 a month by year 3 by increasing your income, you'll pass $1 million by year 10. Still short, but you've completed 70% of retirement. Here's the secret. You don't have to be fully retired on your target date. You can work part-time, consult, pursue passion projects, because the closer you get to your number, the less the gap matters. You've already bought back the majority of your life. Lazy investing has created far more wealth than crypto meme coins. I've seen this over and over. Those who get rich fast almost always lose it fast. Those who build wealth slowly and boringly are still standing. And the reason for this is psychological. Fast money doesn't teach you the skills needed to protect it. Slow money teaches discipline, patience, and systematic thinking. It forces you to understand how incentives work, to confront your own weaknesses. This process is the real wealth. Money is just a receipt. Now let's go back to the beginning. Remember Mikel, the man who realized he was buying his life back at twice the price? Here's what he did. He didn't quit his job, didn't panic. He sat down and drew out his 3-layer structure. He calculated his freedom units. He realized he was already 12% free and hadn't even noticed. This changed everything. He stopped seeing retirement as something distant and binary. Either you're working or you're not. He started seeing it as a spectrum. And once he reframed it this way, the pressure lifted. He increased his income by switching companies and negotiating for a better salary. He increased his contributions by 5% a year. And now, 3 years later, he's at 31% free. He bought every Friday for the rest of his life, working 4 days a week. His quality of life has risen incredibly, and he's on track to fully retire at 56 instead of 71, buying back 15 years of his life. Not because of luck, but because he understood the game. Here are our 3 very important takeaways. First, stop measuring your progress by account balance. Measure it in freedom units. How much of your life have you bought back? That's the number that matters. Second, you can't budget your way to wealth. You need to grow your income while keeping lifestyle creep under control. And the gap where compounding actually has room to work is right there. Third, build a 3-layer portfolio. Growth for compounding, income for cash flow, stability for psychology. This structure keeps you in the game while everyone else is selling in panic. The financial industry wants to make this look complicated, to charge you for the complexity in your head. But it's not complicated. It's just math and psychology. And if you understand both, you can buy your life back in 10 years instead of 40. The only question is, are you actually going to do it? Because knowing the plan and executing the plan are very different things. And most people will watch this video, nod their heads, and carry on with their lives without changing anything. My children, don't be most people.